Hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton and I am the host of your show. And it is a crazy life out there, folks. I don't know about you, but I've lived a long time and I look around and say, is this real? Can this be happening? Every day, it's like every 15 minutes. I was telling my husband, I think I'm getting addicted to adrenaline addiction, where every 15 minutes something just drops out of the sky and crazy stuff just happens. And in my business, it is even crazier. If you don't know, this show is brought to you by Million Kids. Million Kids is an organization that serves as a training and outreach coordinator for the Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. So for the past 10 years, we've trained over 500,000 people. The job's heavy. Yeah, it's heavy because we talk about human trafficking and sextortion and social media exploitation, even things like CSAM, child pornography. And supposedly I'm this, national expert on those subjects. I have tens of thousands of hours of research on it. But more important, I deal with real cases. And that's why it's important to me that we have the truth. There is a lot of untruth out there on those subjects. A lot of companies that do vigilante work, or maybe they do a lot of melodrama for fundraising. I'll tell you, I'm the worst at that. But I did have a blessing fall out of the sky this last week. I'll share with you. I was Million Kids, and the many people that work and support Million Kids, was selected as one of the charities for the San Manuel Golf Tournament. And I'm going to tell you, I went to the presentation last Sunday evening. What an amazing group of men and women San Manuel are. And they give back to their community. They give back to the children and the families, and they truly care. And they gave out an extraordinary amount of money to support charities within the Inland Empire throughout Southern California. And hats off to all those folks over at San Manuel. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely could not believe their generosity. And it is so much needed right now. I've had myself, Million Kids, has had a very hard year because we sat with kids who send naked photos. And there's been a lot of them the last year because kids are online and they're not supervised and they're younger and younger. And they just don't understand where a naked photo goes when you hit send. In fact, I'd be willing to tell you that many parents don't understand that either. So I'm going to help you today. One of the things I do is go out into the community and educate. And I thought, why not use this radio show to talk about crimes in the underworld? So that's what we're going to do over the next hour. We're going to talk about the dark net, how it works, what happens there, how you get in out of it. Hopefully you're not and like that, but I'll share it with you just in case one of your kids might be trying to do that life. We're going to talk about bulletproof hosting and why it is that it is being used and how it is being used. And then if we have time, we'll get into some virtual private networks, some VPN and encryption. So I want to use this opportunity to kind of educate you today about all of these. These are about crimes in the underworld. And I was wondering to myself, most people don't realize how challenging it is for law enforcement to combat crimes in the underworld. And by that, I'm talking about crimes that are online in sites that you can't readily access. How do you get a search warrant for it? How do you get in there without them suspecting that you're law enforcement? And furthermore, why would you need to do that? Well, because our kids get caught up in this and somebody's got to protect them. And Riverside County and San Bernardino County have some of the best in the business. We are so fortunate here, absolutely fortunate. We have Homeland Security. Remember when everybody wanted to shut down Homeland Security? I'm going, wait, don't do that. Homeland Security has Internet Crimes Against Children. It's called ICAC, ICAC. Internet Crimes Against Children. And they have some incredible resources in here in Southern California. And the same way with the Fontana Police Department. I had them on a while back, and we got to talk to Corporal Brad Guth, and he has a dog named Goose. And I did an insider alert on a dog named Goose. By the way, if you don't sign up for insider alerts, you should. I about 3 times a week release statements about what's happening. They're about a 5-minute video. Sometimes I get windy and do 10 minutes, but I don't take a lot of your time, but it'll keep you posted on the latest technology, how it all works, and also the latest local cases. Who's been arrested and what kinds of crimes do we have? And we talk about trends in there. So it's a way to keep you educated. Just go to millionkids.org and sign up for that newsletter and the insider alert, and you'll get those. So I'm going to start right off now with the dark net. What is it? It's sometimes called the dark web. They're used interchangeably. So this is a place in society where literally you are able to communicate on the internet in a quasi-private location. And this is really becoming an interesting discussion. I am not recommending that you or others go into the dark net because it can be a dark, dark place. Now, not everybody who lives in the dark net is a bad guy. There are lots of organizations that want to have complete privacy. But if you think of the internet as a bucket of water, just kind of visualize that, since this is radio and I can't show you my slides. The top about 4% of that bucket of water is where we live. That's where you have Google and Chrome and search engines. And it's fairly darn public, quite frankly. I mean, Facebook is watching me carefully because I'm fighting to make it so that we don't have street prostitution in California. And, if I get too rambunctious, they'll take me off again. They already took me off once. I'm starting to wear it as a badge of honor, by the way, because I was fighting to make child sex crimes, violent crimes, and they don't agree with that. How on earth they could not agree with that, I don't know. But they took me off, and we're back on. We got about 8,000 followers. We miss thousands more of you that were on there. So please go on and sign up while we're still on there. But the point of the 4% of this bucket of water is that it's pretty darn public. They know everything about you. They know, and by the way, be careful what you say to Alexa and Siri. All of that is being sold. What happens there is that information's public, and the government sees it. Private companies see it. They sell your information. They sell ads so that they can access you. This is no surprise to you. You know that. You go on and you Google some new kind of underwear and 15 ads come up for similar underwear. Or you're looking for a new front door and here comes all the door salesmen right out there. God forbid you should look for solar or gold. These gold salesmen or something, aren't they? Anyway, so that's how that works. We have search engines. We can find each other and they can find us. Below the dark web is the deep web, and that's the bulk of the internet. Those are big corporations. Your bank information is in there where you have to use two-step verification and private passwords and things like that. A lot of that is stored in the deep web. And so that's kind of like the massive world vault, if you will. Below the deep web, and actually part of the deep web, is something called the dark web or dark net. This was created by the U.S. many, many years ago, and we gave it away. And anybody can go onto it. Now, you cannot go from the clear web or the surface web where we live, that 4%, down into the dark web by accident. It takes quite a bit of equipment and understanding how to do it to make it happen. Most people will buy a Tor router, T-O-R, the onion router. And so how do you know if someone's in the dark net? They have a .onion account. And I see way too many teenagers that have a .onion account. In fact, if you have a teenager with a dotting account, you need to immediately stop that. And if you see somebody with it, you need to turn them in to school resource officers, your school, or even the local vice squad, because I do not believe any teenager ought to be in the dark net. So that's a dot onion. That's the device that gets you from the clear web to the dark web, and it's not done by accident. So if you're going in there, you better know what's in there, and you better be prepared that you're in the criminal underworld. My name is Opal Singleton. This show is Exploited Crimes and Technology. We will be right back.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the darknet will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Hey, there are many good restaurants in the Inland Empire, but really great restaurants are hard to find. Let me tell you about the Toasted Barrel in Corona. It's a trendy, upscale steakhouse with great pasta and seafood. It's a fantastic choice for birthdays and anniversaries or just that special night out with your loved one and friends. Inland Empire magazine has awarded them Best Restaurant and Brunch for the past 3 years. The owners, Ed and Shirley, are friendly and attentive to your needs. If you're a prime rib connoisseur, this place is for you. Go ahead and try it out. The Toasted Barrel, located at 1300 El Sobrante Road in Corona. Or Google them at Toasted Barrel to make reservations. I guarantee you, you're going to love it. Be sure and tell Ed and Shirley that Opal sent you. It will be a night you'll never forget.
Real estate sales in the Inland Empire are really hot. Sellers and buyers recognize that these low interest rates will not last. Sean and Colleen at Caldwell Banker Armstrong Properties in Riverside are proud to sponsor this show. They are the best in the Inland Empire. They're fair, honest, creative, and they care about you and your situation. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call Sean and Colleen at 951-529-4066.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and we are kind of educating you about the dark web. So the dark web is one of those underground places that you have to have special equipment to get into. And it doesn't have a search engine, kind of like Google or something. It does have a directory, so you can kind of find your way around there, but be very careful. So who is using the dark web once they get one of these Tor, the onion router kind of routers to get in there? Well, there's all kinds of things that go on. For the most part, I don't recommend it. Because it really opens you up to a lot of things, including being hacked. And if you're going to play those games, you better have some sort of software that's going to protect you. But there are gun sales down there, illegal gun sales, a lot of drugs. Kids get in there. That's why I say if you see someone with a dotting account that's underage, I'd certainly do an intervention on that kind of thing, because kids get in there and buy illegal fentanyl. And fentanyl is a drug that's made from chemicals that are supplied from China and given heavily to South America, although they're in other places also. And so you see the Chinese and the people in Mexico and South America working together to sell illegal fentanyl. Much of it is sold online. It's highly, highly addictive, and you do not want your children exposed to that. You see a lot of hackers in there. I remember when the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, I think that was back in 2016, I want to say. I've been doing this a lot of years, but anyway, everything, they hacked the DNC database, and it was all for sale in the dark web. Everything about you. They knew your name, they knew your age, they knew your sex, unless, of course, you've changed it on them. Anyway, I had to throw that in, sorry. But anyway, they also knew if you were for abortion or against abortion, and if you were a Democrat voter or moderate voter, or if you owned a gun, and all of those things were part of that database that the Democrat National Committee maintained, and it got hacked. And all of that information was sold, and it was being sold very darn cheap. The same kind of thing when they hack a credit card company or they hack somebody's database with all kinds of information, it is often sold in the dark web. Well, since we have all this stuff going on with the Taliban, Taliban has been using VPN, virtual private network. It's encryption. They've been using that off Telegram. Telegram is an app similar to WhatsApp or some of the others, Facebook and like that. They've been using encryption for a long time, the Taliban has, and also Al-Qaeda and all of those people. And so they will have things that they're operating in the dark web. Gangs will often create dark web accounts to do kinds of conversations, and they will also use virtual private network. MS-13 is one of the most prominent ones for that. When they take on an attack and they go in and they hack somebody up or kill them, they film it and they send it out to all of the members across the United States as well as around the world. I always say gangs have IT guys, and virtual private network is an encryption that nobody else can read unless you have the encryption code and belong to that group. And so that is how they'll often communicate. On top of it, child pornography rings operate there in a big, big way. And we're going to talk about that throughout some of the rest of the show. But there are reasons why people would be in the dark web that are not nefarious, that are not so negative. And one of those is that in countries, keep in mind, this is a worldwide thing, the dark net. I say that to kids all the time because, our kids think they have a right to privacy. They were raised as U.S. citizens. Well, I share with them, this is not the U.S. web. This is called WWW, the World Wide Web. And nobody ever promised you it would be private. And that's why we're in the process of hopefully finalizing a film and then a documentary out of that film about where naked photos go when you hit send. Because when they do, if you get it to the wrong child pornographer, and I don't know that there's a right one, by the way, I'm pretty sure there is not. But if you get to one of those people that belong to those large-scale rings, they recently discovered a child pornography ring about, probably 9 months ago now, out of South Korea that covered the world, and it had 1 million paid subscribers. 1 million paid subscribers. They were paying about $200 every 6 months to be part of this underground ring and receive photographs of kids who are being violated or who have been tricked into sending their naked photo. Think about this ring and how big it is. If there's 1 million people and they pay $200 every 6 months, that means they're making $400 million. Where does that money go? I'm going to tell you, it goes for bad purposes and it will pop up in other ways. But more important, if your child sends a naked photo and it's to someone who belongs in that ring, that it was called Welcome to Video, their photo could go to 1 million people before you can snap your fingers. And that million people will resend it on. And that's why I want our kids, and this is why we're having this conversation, by the way, is where naked photos go when you hit send. They often go to the dark net, and they get part of those rings where they're automatically sent out to everyone who is a member, and it goes out around the world, and you will never get it back. And it will go on and on and on and be passed around to people you know, and it will change your child's life forever. I know kids who are trying to get into college, and here comes this photo, and they're being destroyed at school. Now, there are some good uses for the dark net. I don't know if I have time to really give you the background, but maybe I'll start and then we'll come back at the break. But I've done a lot of work out of Cambodia with an organization called Rafa International. And wonderful, wonderful people. I was on their board for about 10 years. And in that case, what'll happen there is Cambodia is a country that has been highly influenced and almost taken over by the Chinese. The prime minister there is Hun Sen. He has been there for 40 years. He has a background in the Khmer Rouge. And when he got ready to run for re-election, his opponent had actually made a YouTube video here in the U.S. suggesting that the U.S. might be on his side. Because of that, Hun Sen arrested him and put him in prison for 40 years for making a YouTube. Then he shut down all the newspapers in Cambodia, except the one that his son-in-law owns, and he shut down all the radio stations, including Radio Free Asia. And in the meantime, as the election came up, what happened is he formed a social media task force, and everybody's social media was monitored. If you suggested you aren't going to vote because, there's nobody running against them, you could be arrested. Well, I just saw a headline yesterday where they're taking it a step farther. All social media, you think Facebook has censorship or Twitter, all social media in Cambodia is now being routed through a government router, and they are using algorithms to analyze all transactions that are taking place on there, all comments, all postings, and like that. And so why would somebody go in the dark web for a legitimate reason? Because they want to be able to communicate outside their country without the government having censorship. This often works this way within China also, for what it's worth. And so that is why it is so important. By the way, that is why Donald Trump, when he was president, was taking on TikTok. Now, TikTok's an excellent app for the right occasion, but you better be smart enough and old enough to use it with maturity because you're sending out videos around the world. But TikTok is a company that is owned by ByteDance out of Singapore. And so therefore, they're collecting facial images, that's how you sign in. They're collecting your profile, and they're collecting your location, and they are collecting your text information because people send out videos, and then strange people that you've never met can text back to your child. All of that information is gathered up and used by the app companies, whether it's a U.S. app company or a Singapore-based app company. And so people who are concerned about their privacy with the government will go into the dark web and be able to talk and use encryption and use secure networks. And so that is why some people are doing it. I don't believe any young person ought to be in there, period. This is Opal Singleton. We're up against that break again. Stay with me. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it, and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590, The Answer. Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, your host. We are the president of Million Kids. I've been doing this about 13 years and can't do it all by ourselves, folks. It's that simple. This is a really challenging kind of situation in our community, in our families, and also throughout the world. We deal with human trafficking, and yes, it is real. I try not to make it melodramatic. I don't believe in throwing out huge numbers and, all for the possibility of fundraising. We deal with real cases. We deal with real statistics. We report to the Riverside County Sheriff Department and also the Department of Justice. So I'm not interested in making this into some sort of horrible melodrama. It is very, very real, and I've been doing it for 10 years. California is always the number one state for human trafficking. We have more cases than any other state. People ask me why. Well, maybe the weather, it's warmer out here and easier to get your clothes off, I guess. They asked me that in Butler, Pennsylvania once, and it was 8 degrees. I'm like, it's too cold back here to do this. Anyway, but part of it is, our attitudes. Part of it is our, the opportunity to do it. A lot of it is gang related. Kids go on these dating sites, hook up with some gang guy, get involved, or they go on and meet somebody and send a naked photo, and they start getting blackmailed, and they don't know how to get out of it, and they don't want to tell anybody, and the parents aren't trained on how to handle it. And so that's the work of Million Kids. And I so much appreciate all of you that have sent me $25, $100. Some of you have been a lot more generous than that, and made this happen over the last 10 years. It's just amazing to me. I always say I'm the world's worst fundraiser because I'm just so focused on the business. But you all have been so faithful and so supportive and been able to help us. We've educated 500,000 people right here in the Inland Empire, and mostly in the Empire. I do travel across the United States training other people. I'm a post-certified law enforcement trainer. So, you guys investing in Million Kids means investing in keeping kids safe from predators, and I so much appreciate you doing that. Well, I want to give you a little bit of background now about the dark web and how law enforcement and the challenges of finding these cases, and then how do you go about getting a conviction if you're in the dark web? How does that work? Well, there's a famous case called the Playpen case. It happened about 2015, and that was our first exposure to it. So put your mindset back in 2015. We knew, all the law enforcement knew, that there was child pornography going on in the dark web, that people would go in there, they would get the Tor router, they would join a organization that was in the dark web, and they would send naked photos back and forth. But nobody knew how big it was. And then how does that work? How do you get a search warrant? Well, they had found a case that was called the Playpen case. It was led by a 58-year-old man from Naples, Florida, who's scary looking, by the way. This guy, yeah, I like to show it to kids. I go, you want to know where your naked photo went? And look at this guy. Anyway, I'm rotten sometimes, sorry. Anyway, so what happened here is that they had intercepted Stephen Chase's account, and he was the administrator of a dark web child pornography site. They put him in solitary confinement. Anyway, and that was a good thing, because if anybody on that child pornography ring realized that he had been arrested, then everybody would shut the ring down and they'd never be able to find how it is. Now, something happened there that I don't approve of, but I am kind of happy that they did it. What happened is they had no idea how big this was. And so for 13 days, the FBI operated this child pornography ring. Now, that's a no-no in law enforcement, okay? All of us agree. If you do an undercover sting in a motel, you do not interact with the sex provider. You don't do that. It'll affect your case. And we've seen more than one case affected in that kind of way. But in this case, they did this just to find out how big it was. Their search warrant was for Quantico, Virginia, and they got in there and they did what is called a network investigative tool. Since this is radio, I'll help you visualize it. It's kind of like putting a needle in your veins and injecting dye and then seeing where that dye ends up. And they did that just because, are there 5,000 people in this ring, 10,000, maybe 20,000? Well, it turned out there were 215,000 pedophiles in that one ring. As I told you earlier in the show today, we found one that now had 1 million paid subscribers. So that was the first case that told us how big it was. They had a real problem there, though, because we work with the rule of law. You need a probable cause. You need a search warrant. Well, they had a search warrant out of Virginia, but the first guy that they found, what they do is once they take control, then they check all the IP addresses. And who's part of this thing? Now, they're getting better at hiding these IP addresses, but at the time they weren't, and they could find out who some of the members were. And they began to go out and arrest them. And the first one that got arrested was in Oklahoma City. And he said, wait a minute, you cannot charge me. Your search warrant is in Virginia. Well, so the law then started to take place. And they began to appeal all of these things, because how does law enforcement ever get into the dark web with search warrants if you don't know who you're going to find in there? It is truly a hidden place, or was at that time. It went up and up and up the appeals court, and finally they came up with something called Rule of 41, and you may want to Google that. And the Rule of 41 was created, this was re-ruled on, if you will, that what can happen is law enforcement, like FBI and Homeland Security, can use the Rule of 41 to get a search warrant, understanding they cannot give you the exact address and person that is in that case, but that they have probable cause of child pornography. And so that gives them the right to go in the account, even if they can't name the defendant at the time. And so they did that, and they began to arrest people. And from there on out, they have used the Rule of 41 to go into the dark net to find the people that they're looking for. And this is very important. In fact, one of the guys that was part of that team was a gentleman by the name of McAlphin. I can't remember his first name right now. It'll come to me, I'm sure. But he is one of the young men who was on the front porch down in Florida about 3 months ago. You heard 2 FBI agents were murdered on a front porch serving a search warrant for a child pornographer. Well, he was one of the people that actually cracked the case having to do with Mr. Chase and the playpen case. And he was murdered serving a search warrant. The reason that happened is because when they had gone in and filed a case, they made it in such a way that people in part of the child pornography ring were alerted that the law enforcement might be onto them. And so the guy that they were serving the search warrant to knew they were coming. He used his Ring camera. And when he saw the 2 officers on the front porch, he blew them away because he didn't want to go to prison. So here is a young man, Mr. McAlpin, who is just really, really, really brilliant, who cracked open how to solve child pornography rings and get them in a conviction. And this same man was one of the officers that was murdered as he was standing on the front porch. His name, I just came up with it here. His name is Special Agent Dan Alphen. He was 36 years old, and he is one of the brilliant minds that helped crack the playpen case and make it so child pornographers could be identified and arrested and convicted, even though they're in the dark web. Unfortunately, he lost his life because of one of those stings, where somehow they didn't get it secured, and one of the administrators figured out that he was about to be arrested, and they were waiting for him when he served the search warrant. That is really sad to me, because that man was a fine young man, and he was able to literally get many pedophiles off the street that were collecting and selling and trading pictures of children who have been abused. And we will always be very, very proud of this young man. So my name is Opal Singleton. This organization is Million Kids. Please follow us at millionkids.org. Sign up for our insider alerts. They're free. And also share this show with everyone you know. We have one more segment. We'll be right back.
Custom Service Systems, a proud supporter of Million Kids, is a family-owned and operated commercial cleaning company servicing the Inland Empire and surrounding areas since 1974. CSS takes pride in their ability to maintain the business facilities they serve and their long-lasting relationships with their valued clients. CSS provides a variety of cleaning systems customized to client needs, including deep cleaning and disinfectant to be COVID-19 compliant. From basic office cleaning to windows and floors, CSS will clean up your mess so you don't have to stress. Custom Service Systems cares about families and communities and wants to give back. Custom Service Systems are proud supporters of Million Kids to keep kids safe from predators. If you need the best cleaning services for your business or corporation, contact Custom Service Systems at cssclean.com. Again, cssclean.com, or call 951-781-9345. That's 951-781-9345. You will know you found the best. Custom Service Systems.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Let me tell you about my friend Doris Anderson at Remax Realty in Upland. She is amazing. She's kind, she's patient, but she listens. And she's informed, and she will help you with your real estate transaction in a way that works for you. Doris, in full disclosure, often supports the work of Million Kids because she cares about young people. But she knows how to analyze a market, how to market a property, and how to find just the right transaction for both buyers and sellers. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate or invest in income property, contact Doris Anderson at Remax Realty 951-733-8899. That's 951-733-8899. 951-733-8899.
This message is all about Million Kids, the organization that helps locate missing kids throughout Southern California and educates to keep kids safe from predators. Million Kids educates school administrators, teachers, parents, and teenagers how predators identify a potential victim and the methods they use to recruit innocent kids. BMW of Riverside is a proud supporter of Million Kids. Visit BMW of Riverside at the Adams Street exit off the 91 freeway or click bmwofriverside.com.
AM 590. The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. We are talking about underground crimes that take place in the dark net and bulletproof hosting. So let me tell you a little bit about bulletproof hosting. That is something that's been around even a long, long time, way back in like 2005, where people would use it, but it has really kind of come into its own because law enforcement is getting more and more proficient at penetrating the dark web. What they will often do in the dark web is that you have to qualify to be a member of that organization. because they know that law enforcement has found a way to penetrate it. And so what they will do is require photographs of abuse, child abuse, each week in order to be able to remain a member. So what happened is, it's kind of like when the lights come on, the cockroaches scatter. So as the governments, our government, Interpol, Homeland Security, FBI, the Australian government, governments around the world, we're starting to work together and penetrate the dark web. So what do you do now? And on top of it, more and more government agencies are starting to censor and monitor the accounts in the clear web. So there was a demand for bulletproof hosting to come back. So bulletproof hosting is basically offshore encrypted hosting on many levels. So let me just kind of break that down for you. Basically what they do is they find a company who houses servers offshore in countries where they don't ask any question about the content of what is on the site. And so some of your biggest ones are countries like Iceland. Iceland's a biggie. China, big deal in China. Lots of money being made in China. A lot of your Eastern European countries are involved in that. So who is using these bulletproof hosting? Well, spammers, cyber criminals, people who do malware and ransomware. We're hearing a lot about that lately. Child pornographers, money launderers, organized criminal enterprises, online gambling, stolen credit card data, hosters, and like that. So it's a lot of the people that historically were in the dark web, but now that law enforcement's getting better at penetrating that and breaking through a lot of those rings, they have moved offshore. So you'll find them because they're domain extensions. They will get a kind of somebody else to own the domain so that it can't be tracked back. For instance, if you have, in our case, we have millionkids.org, you can go to ICANN, you can find out that it's owned by Million Kids and trace it back. Well, they will get other people that will provide domain extensions. So they're not the normal, if you see your normal like .com, .net, .gov, .asia, .org, those are legitimate domains where they're commonly used. But they will use a domain. It'll end in something that'll be completely different than you might normally see, which will indicate that it's not a normal domain. On top of it, what will happen here is that they will then secure, the people that are setting these sites up will go to bulletproof hosters, and you can find them. They advertise. These cost a lot of money, but it's people looking for privacy. And so they will set up servers in these countries that don't ask questions. And they will use encryption to interact with it so that it is very difficult for law enforcement to penetrate. They have many servers, and they may even have servers in multiple countries. And what will happen is the owner of the server will not ask questions. They don't want to know what's on there, and and you don't have to tell them. It isn't like Facebook, who goes on and knows everything about you and what you're doing. They will provide you with multiple levels of servers and encryption so that it's very difficult for law enforcement to penetrate. And you're seeing a lot of this kind of thing happen. Netherlands, Albania, Romania, Bulgaria, and like that. And so it's hard to, number one, find out who's hosting the server, who the IP address is, who the owner and the purchaser of the domain is, and where it's coming from. So it gets harder and harder for law enforcement to penetrate these things. And so that is what you're seeing. They've gone from the dark web to bulletproof hosting, where they're absolutely camouflaged, and it's very, very difficult to find out who they are. And in those, you're seeing a lot of clandestine activity. Again, it can be drugs, it can be guns, it can be governments, it can be cartels, it can be gangs, it can be large-scale child pornography rings. So all of these kinds of things take place in Bulletproof Hosting, where they can't find out who is storing the data, who is hosting the sites, and how you get in there and how you break the encryption to get in there. So I hope that this show has been helpful for you, and hopefully you're not more confused than ever. It is a little bit of a different kind of subject for you, but I thought I was working and doing the research anyway for a presentation that I have to make later, and I thought maybe this might be something the public is really interested in. This is really, really important because I want you to understand, especially with crimes like child pornography, there are many pedophiles that live amongst us that people don't realize and don't understand. And, what they're looking for are photographs. They're looking for interaction. And all of these rings, you have to submit photographs, usually every week, and prove that you are the person that's doing the violating. That means that child pornography has become one of the greatest crimes in the world. And literally, it is not a victimless crime. These kids, the one that had 1 million paid subscriber, they've found databases that have 30 million images of kids. And it's not 30 million images of kids. It's 30 million kids who were violated that had their image taken. And then they get further victimized because those photographs go around the world. They're traded and you can never get them back. And they're there for the rest of that person's life. So if you know anybody that's engaging in child pornography or maybe a victim of child pornography, I'm going to tell you how to report that. There's an organization called National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We call it NCMEC for short, NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Those of you who remember John Walsh and, America's Most Wanted, I couldn't come up with it for a minute. That's an organization that he started that has become a global organization with lots of technology that support law enforcement all over the world. They have a hotline, and let me give you that number. It's 1-888-3737-888. 1-888-3737-888. And you can report child abuse, child pornography. You can report sextortion, blackmail with a photo. You can report social media exploitation. If someone's trying to harass your child, do not go on there and tell that pedophile, look, you're not going to do this to my kid. I'm going to the police. Just stay quiet. If it's something urgent, go to your local police. Ask for the Vice Squad or the Cyber Crimes Unit. Especially if you're in the Inland Empire, we have a really strong Cyber Crimes Unit out of the District Attorney's Office and also out of Fontana with the Fontana Police Department, and they will be glad to help you. But do not destroy the photo and do not chew out your child. You all are going to need counseling. Save the photos, go to the police, and let them pretend to be your child so they can find these people who are hiding in Bulletproof Hosting and find the people who are hiding in the dark web. That's how we solve these crimes, is when we can get the victim and their family to come forward and let law enforcement intervene. That is the key. Well, my name is Opal Singleton. This is Million Kids, and I want to thank each and every one of you. I was at a dinner the other night when somebody came up to me and said, I recognize your voice, and it's always exciting to me when you come forward and introduce yourself. I do this work because I care. I've been doing it 13 years. It is hard work, but it is important work. And I so much appreciate each and every one of you that follow us at millionkids.org, that share these shows, that reach out and speak up when I see you. I so much appreciate that. I really appreciate each and every one of you who support us financially. You can reach me at opal@millionkids.org, OPAL, or just simply go to millionkids.org, hit info or hit donate. I appreciate and thank you again to Sam Manuel for supporting us this week. I hope this show's been helpful for you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the darknet will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.